You guys can hear that cricket, right? We're down in the basement, of course. I want to show you the Phoibos Wave Master, but this cricket won't shut the hell up, and I can't find him. Hopefully, it won't get in the way of the review too much. If so, you can just yell at me in the comments. So this is the Phoibos Wave Master, not a new watch, but I do think their best watch to date. There have been some improvements since it first came out. If you're interested in those, I will put a link to a video from the Casual Watch Review channel. He covers that very well, but I do really like this watch. I bought this Wave Master and the Voyager at the same time. Those are the two watches from Phoibos I liked, and I ended up getting rid of the Voyager rather quickly. That video and the reasons why is right there. Phoibos known for these kind of big, chunky, overbuilt tool watches that are also pretty heavy on design. A lot of it, though, I think is inconsistent with like how many design elements they throw into it. Also, even though I'm 6'4", I have a 7¼ inch wrist, the watch is, a lot of them, just too big and chunky, even for me. This is a chunker, however, I do think this is their best offering still to date, and I intend to prove it to you. But let's get some specs out of the way first as I move over so we can put them on screen too. This is a 42mm diameter diver, 300 meters of water resistance. It has a lug-to-lug distance of 48mm. Thick one, as I mentioned, they say 14.75 millimeters thick to that flat AR-coated sapphire crystal screw down crown that is engraved with the Phoibos octopus, although it's upside down as we look at it now. Screw down crown, I think I said that already, screw down case back, a milled clasp with the Phoibos printed on it, and a 22mm lug width with this non-tapering engineer bracelet on it. 120 click unidirectional dive bezel that has a sapphire, a ceramic bezel insert, fully loomed. The Loom Shot's going to be nuts later if you haven't seen it. And I can't tell if this bezel lines up. Am I crazy that it's just past, like a little bit that way? I don't know. One interesting thing, though, about this bezel, it turns almost too easily. It is some nice action, like it feels good turning it. There is some backplay, just a little. It's not spongy at all. It comes against a wall, which is nice, but there's almost a mini click back if you can see it do that. Go forward and then go back. And also it's almost too easy to turn, as I said, so I think at least on one occasion I knocked it or something because I looked down, and I usually keep it at 12, and all of a sudden it was over here. But it's called the Wave Master because of this dial, at least it better be. This wave pattern dial has applied indices all around that date at the 6 o'clock. And did I mention the NH35 inside? For me, I'm very lucky. This watch running at about maybe +1 seconds a day, like a half a second a day. This watch is almost spot on, which is friggin' awesome for an NH35 and for a $250 watch. I'm super happy about that. But looking at the details, this is a really interesting color combination. The colorway here is probably the most modern part about this watch. This has some old school nods. This bezel is definitely an old school design bezel, minimal, almost has like a 50 fathoms vibe to it. I really am drawn to those more minimal dive bezels, but the colors with the teal and orange really make it pop and bring a little bit of modernity into what could be considered a pretty retro design. I mean, the thickness and the lack of a dome definitely get rid of some of the retro feel, but you know, the unguarded crown, the bezel, the really nice simple indice shapes, I think really kind of give a nod to the past, while the textured dial, which we're going to zoom in on a lot today, plus the applied indices, plus the colorway, give it the kind of modern feel that I really like. So Phoibos has this octopus. I've heard it's divisive, although I've never met or seen a video from someone who doesn't like the octopus, and I really like the octopus. I think it's a really clean way to show off the branding, but also you don't have to print Phoibos on it because everyone, number one, mispronounces it. I'm really only pronouncing it the way I've heard the most amount of people say it, but you hear Phoibos, you hear Phoibos, let's just call it the Cool King Octopus and leave it at that. The Untitled Chapter ring, again, something I've never really been completely sure I'm pronouncing correctly, also is a great great way to show the depth of this dial. Topography, as I call it, is one of my favorite design elements. I really love showing off the depth of a dial in as many ways as possible, and showing it with the chapter ring and the applied indices together, showing all the multiple depths, I think is really, really handsome. Also, that cricket, if you can't hear it, I'm going to just seem like a crazy person. I really hope you can. One thing that I didn't expect to kind of pop out to me, and we can look at this case as I talk, but this screw down crown is phenomenal. I think it's the perfect size. This is the easiest crown I've ever operated. To unscrew, a joy. To wind, a joy. And to put back in, hey, guess what? Another joy. With my kind of big, thick fingers, I've ended up actually kind of hating crown guards. I understand their purpose, and I used to think I really liked them, but actually this watch made me enjoy and actually prefer the lack of crown guard. And I think the size of this crown is absolutely perfect. The knurling on it really gives a great grip. So everything about this crown I would call completely perfect. Some negatives I would say are, number one, the weight. It is a chunky watch, and you 100% feel it on your wrist all the time. I get used to it, and again, I'm a bigger person, so I don't really feel weighed down by it. But if I'm wearing a different watch, even if I'm wearing my SKX for a day or two and then I put this watch on, it almost feels like I'm wearing a handcuff on one wrist. The other negatives for me come from this bracelet. It's really good looking. I've never owned an engineer bracelet before, and I think it's cool. I like the way it plays with the light, the articulating links, as it does the worm for us, I think make this watch fit and conform to the wrist very well. However, I'll start with a small complaint first, and I don't know if it's possible with an engineer bracelet, but I do wish it tapered. I'll bring over my strap code. Like, if this watch had this tapered bracelet, do you see how elegant that looks? I think that would be great, instead of just having a huge blob, non-tapering 22 millimeter width of a bracelet that also goes up to what, 23, 24 millimeters down here, which to me is too thick of a bracelet. Also, the comfort of the bracelet. There are some sharp edges, and I'll get into that right now, because not only are these edges a little bit sharp, so you feel it when you put it on, but this writing is very uncomfortable. It's not soft. It actually feels like sandpaper. So whenever I put this watch on, I feel it dragging against the top of my hand. The writing is like scraping my hand, and the sides of the bracelet are also scratching my hand. So when I put it on, it's not a comfortable donning. When I put on this watch, it's not like a slip into a nice pair of shoes. It's actually like a, ooh, okay, it's on. And this watch, and I own many Casios, this watch is the first one to catch arm hairs. But I am wearing it now, and it feels good now, so we'll give some perspective. Again, this is a 7¼ inch wrist on my arm, and I think it fits great. Some smaller wrists probably would not benefit from this watch, but you probably knew that already. So all in all, I think this is a great buy. With the discount codes that you can find almost anywhere, this is about a $250 watch. And if we're talking about solid end links, solid bracelet, milled clasp, screw down crown, 300 meters of water resistance, screw down case back, of course, sapphire crystal, a gorgeous dial with a lot of attention to detail, these applied indices, and the loom, which we'll get to in a second, a ceramic insert on the bezel. The value for money, I think, is fantastic. Also, the other colorways in this watch, I think, are phenomenal too. I almost bought the blue one. The blue colorway looks awesome. And actually, every dial variant on this watch, I think, is a really good look. So I think the cohesion, thumbs up. The different choices, depending on what color you want, thumbs up. Did I mention this coin edge bezel? Really cool looking. So there you have it. There's the Phoibos Wave Master, most recent Phoibos Wave Master. I think this is the design that will stand the test of time. There's not a lot of fad put into this watch design. Instead, there's a lot of kind of thought and timeless design. All right, so I'll shut my mouth. Let's get ready for a loom shot as I, of course, knock everything off. Ooh, doesn't that look awesome? The different layers of loom are phenomenal. So this gives a completely different perspective on the watch, which I also really enjoy. You don't think the watch would look like this necessarily when you get the Loom going, when you shut off the lights, but it almost looks like a different watch, which I think is really kind of fun. And I've never moved the bezel in the dark. It's like a ghost is doing it. Okay. There you have it. Of course, one of my lights isn't going to go back on, so we're going to end it in the shadows. New videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks for hanging out with me. Again, please do subscribe and like this video if you did enjoy it or if it was helpful in any way. It does help build the channel, and I will see you on Tuesday is when the next video will be out. See you soon.